chairperson seat today.
Whoopee.
Because he's not gonna be here, and I wanted to personally apologize to him for the last meeting and all the handouts that
Yeah.
was needed. That's
No,
fine.
no, no.
Because I dropped the ball. I needed a brain.
What?
A brain. I'm forgetting
Oh,
things, so I totally apologize
No, you-
because I was just like,
You don't.
and then when I went back and was reading the minutes, reading the minutes, watching the YouTube, I'm like, oh,
Oh my gosh, you don't need.
but that happened. We have to end it right after.
Hello.
And I didn't know that I could make that. So I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about. So.
It's been a real long recovery for me.
If I overlook something, don't hesitate to bring it back to my attention.
Well,
That's okay. I'm still trying, but.
Hi. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Oh, gosh. Hey, Candy, remind me to get a book out of my car for you. It's about agricultural fairs,
yes.
agricultural fairs
Hello.
in America.
Are we supposed to sign in?
Oh, I didn't.
I don't usually have you guys sign in, I take roll call,
Okay.
so that kinda takes care of that. You don't
No,
have
ma'am.
to sign in.
There's one
If
of
you
your,
want,
there's
if you
one of
feel
your
like writing,
nameplates.
you can go right ahead, but. So Kathy, you'll be, conducting the meeting today?
Okay, this is my first time, you know, so,
Okay. So you've got an agenda, so you'll follow that. Do
Yes.
the Pledge of Allegiance in those orders.
yes,
Howdy.
Hey,
thank you.
Testing.
Okay, it's 4 PM, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we'll say the pledge first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call?
Paul Brannan. Candace Bellamy McPherson.
Present.
Catherine Turner Thompson.
Here.
Cynthia King. Here. Lynn Turk.
Here.
Mark Hammer. And Gina Eason. We have a quorum.
Okay, the first order of business is approval of the minutes from the last board meeting, April 7th, 2025.
I move to approve the minutes as submitted for April 7th, 2025 minutes.
Need a second? I'll second that.
Okay, second by Lynn Turkett. Is there any additions or corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Okay, I'll call for a motion to accept the motion.
You've already done that.
Okay. Is that all I need?
That's all I need.
Okay. Yes, please bear with me, because this is my first official, first official meeting to conduct the meeting. Okay, so then the next item on the agenda is certificate of appropriateness update.
Okay. Within the ordinance, we do have it required or listed that certificate of appropriateness is a requirement. It is already established within our historic preservation ordinance, and it is acceptable as presented.
Great.
It is not included in the backup.
So that was reviewed by the county attorney and county staff, or?
There's no need for a review on it because it is indicated and required within the ordinance.
Okay.
I neglected to add that to our packets, but I will get everybody a copy of what we're supposed to follow as soon as we're done with the meeting, okay?
All righty.
Okay. I tried to open that, it's not easy.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Yulee Sugar Mill, courtesy discussion and the backups in our packet.
Okay, within the packet provided, and this is not an official review. This is a courtesy review. I spoke with both the engineer and the subcontractor and the contractor that will be submitting the application. Because they have not submitted the application yet, this is not an official review, but I told them that if they could provide me with the information that they have available at this time, as a courtesy, I would bring it before the board. The board would have a moment to review it, see what information is provided, and if they see any concerns at this point, I could bring the concerns back to them, and they can make the appropriate action. And this is just all, and again, as a courtesy, to try and streamline their application when it does come back before the board.
I saw this, I looked through very briefly, just went through the whole 42 pages of information, and what struck me was how do you, I mean, if it was approved, who watches to make sure that the pipe is done the right way or the patina is saved? I mean, is there like somebody overlooking this or some historic, somebody in the historic preservation that watches this? I just didn't really, I mean, there's a lot of information here, 42 pages, and it's,
So that would be a concern you'd like me to ask them?
yes, I mean,
Okay.
how do you follow through on this, make sure it all happens the way they
What's-
say they're gonna do it?
What is the means of oversight during the process?
Thank you.
And that is, again, in part is to try and help the process when they do come back for the permit application. I'm hoping that all and any questions that we have today will be answered whenever the official application comes forward again.
But it does have to be this long and complicated.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There are procedures that must be followed because this project, this structure
This is a
is
big one.
on the National Historic Registry.
Yes.
There are guidelines that must be adhered to.
Yeah. But, you know, just, it was the follow-through, especially the part about leaving the piping and taking out the old piping and putting in new piping. And there was something else about the wood from the 60s that had to be replaced. And how do you make sure that it does happen the way this wonderful 42 pages says it's gonna happen? So that's my question. Thank you.
Cynthia, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm just wondering, is that within this board's realm?
Yes. So, through the Land Development Code, any permit that comes through the building department of any structure of historic nature must come before the Historical Resource Advisory Board for review. During our last meeting when we discussed the windows, the permit application for windows, that was going on a historic structure. It was a permit application that went to the building department. Anytime a historic structure goes into the building department, there is a trigger within the review process. When they type in their address, that address fell within the historic district. It gets triggered, a flag goes up, it sends it over to me, I bring it before the board for review. The permit will not be issued until the Historical Resource Advisory Board has had the opportunity to look over the application
And approve it.
and approve it. So by those means, that's why this project will come before the board for review when the permit is submitted. That's why I state that this is just a courtesy review that we're doing at this time. There is not a permit. This is not an official review. This is not official remarks. This is concerns that board members may have that we would like to present back to the contractor so they can address it to try and expedite the process whenever they come forward for the permit. Because we're gonna be looking at this again. When they submit the permit, this will be coming before the board in an official capacity for an official review.
So, I have a question. Am I reading this? The owner is the Florida DEP? Is that correct?
Yes.
It's where do you see that? Yeah.
It's under this page. It says up at the top, Yulee Sugar Mill Ruins Historic State Park.
It's a state park. It comes under the state FDO DEP.
So,
I guess so. They're probably going to be the actual applicant for the permit.
Yes.
so I'm sure they'll be abiding by any type of governance through the historical, marker,
It'll have to.
yeah.
Given the national designation, it'll have to.
How did this even get started? Was it like from the Yulee Sugar Mills Historical Preservation Group? Is there such a thing? I mean,
Well, they have, if you don't mind, let's see, the state parks have, plans, 5-year plans, whatever. And this would have been part of their 5-year plan. They did some work at this site, oh gosh, I can't remember how many years ago, but it was, and that was one question that I had in terms of, will they be using the same type of mortar that they did on the restoration back 15 or 20 years ago? I don't know. That's one question I have. Because it's important, because when they put the pieces of some of the mill back together in the 60s, they used cement mortar. And it's really a lime-based mortar that was originally used. And by using the cement mortar, that's what caused, the vibration on the road close to the mill. That's what caused, things to start breaking apart. And so the U.S. Department of Interior worked with the Florida DEP and the parks to do that restoration a number of years ago. And they brought in, people from D.C., and they helped get the mortar right. That's really important when you're working on historic buildings made of either limestone or brick. It's important to get the original mortar right. And, pre-World War II, I don't know how far pre-World War II, but, at some point it went to the cement and not the lime mortar. And so that's one of the questions I had was, is the same type of mortar going to be used as the previous restoration?
It says here in general, part 1, they'll provide a complete documentation of preservation actions, photographic log of completed work, and a summary report of archaeological coordination.
Yep. That's all part of the
And
process.
page 11, under quality control, part 1, general contractor must provide qualified personnel for historic masonry work and metal preservation. And part 3, execution work will be subject to review by Florida DEP and archaeological consultants.
Okay. you're answering
Areas
all my
failing
Yeah.
to meet standards shall be removed and replaced at the contractor's expense.
Do you have any other questions, Candy?
No.
I had just one question, and that is, where is the funding for this project coming from? Can you find that out? Okay.
Yes.
That's the only other question I had.
I would think it would be both the state and the feds.
Yes, it could be.
I'm sure it's a grant, but I'll find out the source of the grant.
And it could be some money from FDEP.
But it wouldn't be county, this is
No, no.
state and federal.
Right.
Yeah, it's not coming from the county.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
And since this is such a large document,
Uh-huh.
as you're going through and reviewing it while we're anticipating a permit application coming forward, go ahead and email me any questions that you have, and we can get Mark to find those answers out prior to the permit application coming back in front of the board, okay?
Perfect.
My intent with this discussion is nothing more than to give the board an opportunity to see what it is and a chance to basically look into it, dwell on it, and come back with questions. This will come before the board again, and as opposed to saying, here's a big stack of papers, let's talk about it for 5 minutes. It'll give me a chance to go back with questions, back to the contractor, with the questions that we've provided now, but also give time to look into it deeper in case there's any concerns that could be brought forward again.
Is the sugar mill, this may be stupid, but is the sugar mill open? Can you go there and look around?
Oh,
Yes.
I've never been there.
Oh, my gosh.
I've lived here for 40 years. I've
You
never
sh-
been there.
You surely you've been by it.
Yes, oh, yeah. But okay.
Yeah, typically, I think they
It's
had.
like a park.
Yes, it is, a park where you can go have a picnic, you can check out the mill, there's some interpretive signage there, it's a little outdated, and I know that the Friends of the Park at one time were talking about trying to update the signage, I don't know where that is. The Friends of the Yulee Sugar Mill Park are also part of the Friends of the Crystal River Archaeological State Park and the Preserve State Park. Those 3 parks come under that Friends group, that one Friends group. And so, yeah, it's one of the more significant sites in the county. And if you don't want to bring a picnic lunch, there's also a museum, printing cafe and gallery right next door to the picnic area that is, got the best Ybor sandwiches this side, Cuban sandwiches this side of Ybor.
Is it dog friendly?
I'm not
Probably
sure.
not.
Well, they have outside eating area too. Yes, that's all I know.
All right, thank you. Sorry, it's kind of
No.
off the subject, sorry.
Okay, next item, open to the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to us from the public?
Good afternoon. My name is Jane Vandenberg, and as Mark said, I used to be on this board, but then I gave my seat up to you lovely people. I'm just here to listen to the next item, which is the local designation procedure, because I had called Mark. I live in Ozello, and we are part of the Ozello Civic Association and have been for several years. The building we know was constructed in 1965, and it has been a pillar of the community for all kinds of events and having local people come together. In the old days, before water was out there, they used to get their water supply. Someone would bring it in, and then mail would be delivered there, and voting took place there. It was one of the precincts. So it's been an established organization to help the community. So I called Mark not too long ago and said, well, what is the procedure to get it designated as a historical site in the county? And he said that they would be working on it, and come up with a specific application process and as a procedure. So I'm just here to listen to what you guys have to say and encourage you to make the process not too difficult. That's it. You have
What
any
was this
questions on
building
it?
again, ma'am?
Okay, the building is a civic association. It's in Ozello, and it's called Ozello Civic Association. It's right on Ozello Trail. It's 60, so that's 60 years old now. So I know a lot of the designation has to be past 50, and also it has to have some significance to merit any historical designation.
Has it withstood the hurricanes?
It gets flooded, but we have repaired it, gone and changed the flooding, the wall, the flooring in the walls. We've maintained it all these years with new roofs and painting, but there's never been any new additions to it or anything else. So it's the same construction as it was 60 years ago.
And you say it's right on the road?
Yes.
Is it all the way to the end?
No, it's about 5 miles.
5 miles?
Mm-hmm.
It's where the fair is, right? There's a fair.
In October.
Yes, there's always, we have two, well, depending on the year. When there was, last year there was 3 storms. We didn't have we always have the,
Chili cook-off.
yeah, the chili cook-off in February with art crafts, and then the art festival. We call it now the Blue Crab Festival because so many people in our area are fishermen, and they have blue crab industry as their base of income to collect blue crabs, and so we wanted to, honor that tradition. And we also had several artists that lived in the community, and so we said, we need a place for them to display their art and sell it, and then, of course, it just grows from one year to the next. I know, again, when we first moved there in 1991, they had a Pioneer Festival, and that was to celebrate the original pioneers, John Brown, which was a Civil War young man, and then his family continued to live out on the islands. We had the island school out there where the children and the teachers had to row a boat to. That structure is no more. But yeah, there's a lot of history that can be celebrated out in that area. But again, I'm just here to listen to what you feel you can do towards the process of getting a facility designated. Anything else you wanted to ask me?
Thank you for being, yeah, thanks for coming.
Okay. So for our local designation procedures, and I have 3 different pages before we get to that, with our ordinance number 2023-A07, section 101-3, local register of historic places. A local register of historic places is hereby created as a means of identifying and classifying various sites, buildings, structures, or districts as historic and/or architecturally significant. The local registry shall be compatible with the Florida Master File site file to ensure that the data produced shall be integrated into the statewide comprehensive historic preservation planning process and should include at a minimum a completed master site file form with an assigned master site file number. The local register shall be made available to the public through the county's website. Section 101-4, historic sites, structures, and district designation criteria. This is part of our historic ordinance. I don't have a copy available, I apologize. I just want to review it real quick so it complements what we're about to talk about. Historic site structure and district designation criteria. For the purpose of this chapter, a historic structure, historic site, or historic district designation may be placed on any site, natural or improved, including any building, improvement, or structure located thereon, or any area of particular historic, agricultural, or cultural significance to the county, such as historic structures, historic sites, or historic districts which, 1, exemplify or reflect a broad cultural, political, economic, or social history of the nation, state, or community. Or, number 2, are identified with historic personages or with important events in natural, state, or local history. Or, number 3, embody the distinguishing characteristics of its architectural style or specimen inherently valuable for the study of a period, style, method of construction, or indigenous materials or craftsmanship. Or, number 4, are representative of the notable work of a master builder, designer, or architect who influenced his age. Or, 5, have yielded or likely to yield information important to prehistory or history. B, the board shall recommend for the approval by the Board of County Commissioners specific operating guidelines for historic structures, historic site, or historic district designation, providing such are in conformance with the provisions of this chapter. The advisory board shall review and provide all recommendations for any nominations of properties or district to the National Registry of Historic Places. Whereas I have provided 3 different documents. One is a single page, just simply states a formal request for designation must be received by the county in sufficient time to be placed on the upcoming agenda. Any financial burden will be the responsibility of the applicant. All necessary documents and forms will be made available to the Historical Resource Advisory Board to review with the formal request. Essentially, this short little statement says that the county will not bear the burden of any cost for the application. We do not have funds within our department to fund any of the process that must be taken as designated within the ordinance as to what actions have to be taken. That's all going to be the burden of the applicant. When it does come before us, everything must be complete for review. The applicant shall provide it to us. Once it has been reviewed, we shall supply the board with the approval. If approved, we'll submit it to the county to make a record. I have 2 different procedures. One is the procedure for the designation of resources. It's a draft. This one has been taken from another county and simplified, and it has been provided by Ms. Jane, who had spoke a moment ago. She provided this, and it's a draft that's utilized by another county in a simplified version. The second one is essentially 2 pages, and this one is information that I had taken from our ordinance and reconstructed it down and simplified it as to what is required. It is the board's discussion, is to review and give guidance as to what you feel is necessary, what's required, what you'd like to see, what you'd not like to see.
Have they complied with those guidelines?
We are providing the guidelines to be complied with.
We are?
Yes, ma'am. There has not been a policy or procedure in which an application can be submitted. We are creating a policy and procedure for submitting an application.
Didn't you
at
just
this time.
read it?
No, I read the ordinance.
Confused.
So we will be creating an application form, and we are looking for the board to tell us what you're looking for when they make this application form, so we can make this form. Am I correct?
Correct.
So they don't know what to do, and we don't know what to do.
That's why we're
Creating this.
making a form.
Well, what is the cost? You're talking
So-
about that they have to shoulder that cost.
Right.
But
within the ordinance, it stated that, and I believe it's on this page, it says 2 of 2 on the bottom, taken directly from the ordinance. The advisory board may, after notice and public hearing, okay, I'll simplify it. The applicant of the property must notify all adjoining properties within 500 feet of the application process. So all adjoining neighbors that are within 500 feet are to receive an official certified letter stating that we intend to go before the county commission and request local historic designation. They are to mail out certified letters. That's essentially the biggest burden that's going to be bared.
it's the mailing cost.
Yes, ma'am. It has to be in form of a public notice. We can put it in the newspaper
So
for,
that's the greatest cost is a mail out to the neighbors of this structure?
yes, ma'am,
Certified.
certified.
Okay, that doesn't seem exorbitant.
No, ma'am,
Okay,
I don't believe so.
okay. But has the historical significance of this building been established? That's also on them, but has it been? As to age, I mean, you read a list of things
The
there.
criteria,
but-
that's a list of criteria. And I'm not trying to specify the Ozella Civic Association. This is just any application in general. There are several entities that are requesting this.
And when they make that application, you would decide as the board if you deem that it's going to be of historical nature and if you want to proceed.
Is there
If
a,
it meets the qualifications.
is there a part in there that asks for photographs?
Yeah.
It can.
Well, can I ask a question? Would
You
the
can ask
first?
many.
What?
You can ask many.
What?
You can ask many questions.
Didn't you say the first step is to complete a Florida Master Site File form? Or, I mean, yeah, I would think that would be the first step because, yeah, because that, once they do that, once the owner does that, then that will go to the state. It'll provide a lot of information in terms of the historical significance of the site. That's one of the things in the historical context of the site. And all the regular things like legal, photographs, drawing, those are all the things that are asked on a Florida Master Site File form.
Okay, so they have to get all that together and then bring it back here to us
Yes,
for review?
yes.
But if,
And any additional information that you guys may be looking for. We're looking for guidance from you or direction from the Historical Resource Advisory Board on what you would like to see on this application that they're going to be filling out to bring before the board. That way, they have a checklist of everything that they need to submit, and it's, gathering all the documentation that you guys are
Oh, yeah,
looking
I
for
got
before we
Would
go.
that be similar to master file?
Well, that makes sense. So,
if they have to ask their neighbors or tell their neighbors that they're
This would
submitting
be
a form
essentially the
they
form
don't
for
have to
master
do
site
that?
file.
They have to send a certified letter
to the neighbors.
to the neighbors
be
of
included
any
in the
abutting
application.
okay.
properties that
Right.
abuts to their property.
So if I said, no, I don't agree that should be historical, and
Then you could come and you could argue
so you
that
have
in
to
front of
argue
the
against your
historical.
neighbor?
Correct.
That does not necessarily exclude them from the application. It's not something that would reject the application.
It would not, so they could
That
have it.
necessarily would not reject the application. The board will have the final,
Okay.
the board will have the final vote to send it to the commissioners.
Okay.
And when it comes back from the state, the Florida Master Site, it'll say, how do they state that? This site is eligible for the National Register, a local landmark, or I don't know what all the other criteria is, but it'll come back from the state with some level of, significance.
Right.
So that should help a lot. But I have one question. Oh, wait, did you have any other questions, Lynn?
Go ahead.
Jane, can I ask you where you used the sample from? Oh, yeah, Sarasota. Okay. Well, this is, I think, a great start, and thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
We happen to know somebody that was involved with the state process down there, and we picked his brain, and he gave us the paperwork, but,
Thank you very much.
Offered to be a consultant.
But, I have a question. So the Florida Master Site application is already available somewhere on,
Well, you can go to the DHR, Division of Historical Resources, and they have a link
yeah,
and there's a form there that you can download and fill out. Yeah.
so the form basically already exists that you would use?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah.
This form will be used
At
is
the
a,
local level.
is a,
And the state level has that other list, correct?
Well, I think you have a copy of the form from the state. This-
right, so the state form will be used just as part of the application procedure. It's
Right.
not the entire application
Right,
procedure.
right. But I think you could get, by submitting it to the state first, you could get some good feedback to move forward, I think.
So that would be in part referencing the single sheet, that would be in part of step one.
I would think so. I mean,
The nomination form available from the director shall be completed by the applicant and returned to the director.
well, then did you say we would have our own application?
That's what we're working on right now.
Okay. I don't know. We should look into that.
We're, application form or procedure. If this is the form, this is what we're trying to create. We're trying to create what steps are required and what's gonna be necessary.
Right,
We're not, I don't want to reinvent anything.
right.
If we can cut and paste, I'm completely good with that.
But what you're talking about, that you want this board to be working on is an application process for local historic designation.
Yes.
Correct. We need a process because we don't have a process right now.
Right.
We have 3 entities as of right now
Who've asked about
that
it?
would like to come before the board and request a local designation be bestowed upon them.
And
We
so-
need a means and methods to be able to achieve this. We need the structure to say, here is what we need to do, here is our policy, or here's the procedures in which it needs to be done.
Okay, let's think about the pros and cons of sending it to the state for the master site file. Pros would be it coming back with their opinion for historical significance.
If it's eligible for the National Register, is it eligible for a local landmark designation? Quite honestly, I can't remember. I think there's one other, but I can't remember what it is.
Can you think of any negatives with doing this?
No?
Prior to it going to the state, would it need approval at the local level, then to move to the state? And this is a question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So I
The ordinance states the local register shall be compatible with master site file to ensure that the data produced can be integrated into the statewide comprehensive historic preservation planning process and should include at a minimum a completed master site file form with an assigned master site file number.
Oh, there you go. What page is that on in the ordinance? Is that in our ordinance, or is it?
That's not, and
I don't think we have.
It's in our ordinance, the ordinance 2023-A07. It's section 101-3, local register of historic places.
Well, it sounds like that takes care of it,
Almost.
almost.
You still have to do the notification
Yep,
to the adjoining properties
right.
and the public announcement.
Right.
So I guess essentially with master site file application to the state and the public announcement, that would satisfy the application process.
I would think so.
And Mark, I may have misspoke when you asked regarding the advertisement. The advertisement would need to be placed in the Chronicle. The county would not be paying for those for those advertisements. That would be up to the
Applicant.
applicant. And those typically run right now between $20 and $25 to have it advertised in the legal notice of the Citrus County Chronicle.
So,
It would only have to run
One.
one time.
so,
In lieu of
No.
just
In-
besides.
In addition to the certified letters to the budding property owners.
Now, does the county provide us who the abutting?
Yes.
We can?
Yes.
You can?
Yes, we can.
Because I know some of them.
With all their mailing addresses. Unfortunately, that, it's not we would need adequate time
Okay,
to gather that information,
okay.
once it's requested. I'd say within a couple of days, we would be able to compile all that information and share that.
so the financial burden, as it stands right now, would be the mailing, the certified mailing to adjoining properties and the public notice publication.
Correct.
And the application process would include the master file request to the state, submitted and returned with master file number.
I guess I have a question. So what you're saying is that if the state says no, the county would not go along with it? It has to have the state approved before the county approve it.
That's,
No,
that's a good
If you're
question.
looking for local designation,
I would have to, I would like to say no. What we need is a master file number. Now, if a master file number is issued at receipt or at issuance, I don't know. But according to what's written in the ordinance, a master file number is needed. Now, I don't know at what point they issue the master file number, if they issue it upon receiving it, or if they, or
once they approve it.
approval.
Well, I remember one instance, I know that, a local owner and applicant submitted, I don't know, they may have gone above and beyond the Florida Master Site File and, submitted an application for National Register, so this might not be that applicable, but, it was property in Inverness. It was a cracker-style house, and basically, when it came back, it was said that there were too many other of those types of structures still surviving, so it wouldn't reach the level. I think it was for National Register, and that makes sense.
I do believe, right now, on a national registry, there's different criteria, uniqueness, and limited amounts or no other referenced structures. I'm going to use Beverly Hills as an example, just because it's a very simple example for me to use. A lot of houses in Beverly Hills are over 50 years old.
Right.
But given the mass quantity, Beverly Hills is not going to qualify. A single house in Beverly Hills will not qualify because of the mass quantities. The structures and items that I have been shown interest in by the community or by the shareholders are all unique in their own means. The Zella Civics Center, it's unique in its own manner. The Chaswiska Hotel, it's unique in its own manner. The Desi Prescott Smith sign is unique in its own manner. In my opinion, I don't see as to where the state would step forward and say, you have too many signs. You know, there's other signs like Desi Smith's. No, there's not. There are no other civic centers or locations like the Ozella Civic Center. There are no other hotels like Chaswiska Hotel. So in these circumstances, I don't feel that the state would say, no, you can't have that. And I don't believe that the state will try and limit us or the community in the means that this is a local designation we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's such a position that I could present a case or I could argue a case against the state as to why the county should have them.
Right.
We have a sidewalk in Homosassa with a designation. There's sidewalks in every community. There's sidewalks throughout our entire county. But we have a sidewalk in Homosassa with a designation. It's not a state designation, but it has local prominence. It has the placard, and it goes back to, I believe it's 1929, whenever Florida was going through its original land boom. It's a 9-foot wide section of sidewalk. At the time, it was very unique, and it still exists today. So I don't believe that the state, and with my interaction with the people at the state level now, Mr. Acosta, Ruben Acosta, he encourages local involvement, local designation. So I don't see as to where if we go forward and request a local level, that the state would stand against us, in my opinion.
What are you gonna put on Desi's, Smith's property, just the sign?
There's the sign is already there, the structure of the sign, which she used to have her hunting camp,
Right.
hunting lodge.
Yeah.
It still exists.
Okay.
The owners of that property would like to receive a local designation for that.
Okay.
Could I just make 2 notes on that? I think when you brought when we talked about the Beverly Hills thing, it was also noted that there really isn't any structures out there that haven't been greatly altered. I think that was one of the other points, right? Is that not correct?
Right, and if a Beverly Hills home was to receive a designation, it would have to have some sort of prevailing feature,
Right.
such as one of the original models.
Right. That was
That made it unique to that standpoint.
And then, with the sidewalk, it does have one of the state's Florida Heritage signs there. And the sidewalk is unique, but the whole story about during the Florida boom period, and it was called New Homosassa, and it was intended to be a city beautiful, like Coral Gables and Davis Island. And so it was a big deal in its day, but then, of course, they had some of the first, I think, water or sewer lines in the county there. It was laid out in a whole like boulevard kind of landscape for that property east of 19. And so it was really a lot about that history that really no longer exists. So those are some qualifying features too, I think. Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Peter and Jane. Where are we?
Direction from the board. So with direction from the board, what I would perhaps, what I'm understanding is with the procedures for designation of resources, adding into it the master file historical report review from the state, be submitted and received, file number issued, and include additional verbiage that certified mailing to adjoining properties and public notice publication will be the financial responsibility of the applicant. And then on the back side, include ordinance references. Perhaps.
Yeah, sounds like it'll work and achieve what we want to achieve.
You want to make a motion?
Okay, I can do that. How should this,
I think we should possibly create this form
And bring-
with these and bring it back.
and then
for-
approve it,
Yeah.
yeah.
For approval if
Thank you.
that,
Yes,
the
that's-
Yeah.
direction of the board.
Sounds like a plan to me.
To bring back a completed form for
Yes.
review at the next
The
meeting.
application
Thank you,
process.
thank you, thank you. Thank you, Gina.
Simplify.
Is that your motion?
Next,
Yes, to, let's get it developed and then approved.
Okay. So bring it back with the revisions as stated momentarily ago.
And so it really looks like an application.
Bring back a completed application.
I'll second that. Did I- She made, you
Yes,
made a
yep,
motion,
yep,
right?
mhm,
Okay.
second.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Then I make that motion then.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
Okay, and so with that, I mentioned it momentarily ago, but some of the properties of interest would be the sign for Miss Desi Smith on her property, which still exists right now on Highway 19, just short of the Withlacoochee River on the east side of the road. It's almost a standalone. It's an entranceway into Foss Groves, I believe, is the name of the road.
Yes.
Right on the other side of where the RV park is right now, then you have vacant land, and the sign is right there, right on the side of the road. They would like, they have interest. At our last meeting, the gentleman came forward for the Chaswisca Hotel, had interest, and as spoken today, the Ozella Civic Association building has interest.
Three.
We addressed the Desi Smith at our first meeting,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Correct.
One of the earliest.
Did we
But-
approve that?
No.
We did?
No.
What did we do?
Talked to make.
We said we'll make up an application process.
We're finally there.
Oh, we're still working on that, all righty. Okey-dokey.
And then there's some current vacancies on the board.
those vacancies will be announced during the June 23rd BOCC meeting. We'll be announcing those vacancies and taking applications at that point. Once we receive our applications, and I cannot remember the deadline, I believe I've got it for a month of taking applications. And then we'll go back in front of the board, for the board to nominate and appoint those, whoever they choose to have sit in on the Historical Resource Advisory Board. And then at that time, then we'll be able to invite them into the meetings and swear them in and proceed.
And then the CLG training?
I had Ms. Easton provide a link to some CLG videos.
Yep.
That's from Mr. Tyler and Mr. Acosta from
State level.
the State
office.
Historic Preservation Office.
Right.
I watch, or I'm part of some of these webinars that we have. When there's something of interest or something that I think that the board could utilize just as a reference material, I will ask Ms. Easton to provide it to you, and that's what this video was. The last video that I just was part of last week was nothing that I feel was pertinent. I'm not trying to withhold anything, but I'm trying to utilize your times in your volunteers. I'm trying to utilize it in a meaningful manner. I just don't want to throw something at you that's not relevant to our board. But when I do have something that I feel is relevant, I'm going to share it, and it's for no other purpose than just to provide additional information. And y'all are more than welcome to watch it or not watch it at your leisure. And that was the only reason that it was provided to you, was just for additional information and knowledge if y'all are interested in it.
Be good.
Well, the one you sent, do you have to log into something called Read It or something?
Yeah, it was wanting you to go into a,
Portal?
it wanted to get into your Google Calendar.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It wanted permission to get into your calendar.
Okay, I thought that I didn't utilize it because I was part of the other, I was part of the webinar. I apologize. I'll filter that a little bit more for you. I was under the understanding that they're going to just provide us videos as such. It would be a YouTube link or something similar to where you could watch the video.
Right.
I was unaware that it was intrusive.
Well, you can get into the text part of it without logging in, but this particular one was just on the 106 compliance review. Was there anything else that it did in this one particular video that you all know of?
No, one of them was the existing Florida Building Code.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That's the one that I didn't share.
Oh, okay, good.
That's a whole other thing that I'm not gonna,
Right. Okay.
I'm not gonna, yeah,
Burden us with?
correct, thank you.
Simplify.
Okay. So then we have our upcoming meeting announcement.
Before we get to the upcoming meeting announcement, could we go back to the approval of minutes?
Okay.
I made a note that Kathy Bellamy McPherson made a motion to approve the minutes, seconded by Lynn Turk.
We
But
didn't-
I don't believe that we actually took a
Okay.
overall vote. So
Okay.
if we could go back and
Okay.
take a overall vote.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Upcoming meeting announcement, our next meeting is scheduled for October the 6th at 4 PM.
October the 6th.
Before we adjourn, I wanted to share with you that the old Schoolhouse Community Center, the Hernando School, Historic School, they will be having an open house. If anyone is interested, it'll be, I believe, this Saturday, June 21st, from 12 to 5 p.m. If anybody's interested in stopping by and seeing what the schoolhouse is looking like now. There is an application also going before the building department where they want to add 4 ceiling fans. And that's your update.
Oh, I have a question. Have they resolved the air conditioning issue that was in there in the past with the very high electric bills? Do you know?
I am uncertain, but I could find out.
Okay. And I have one question, and that is, in the future, anything that concerns a county historic building, how will we review that? Will that just go to the building department and not come to the HRAP board, or how will that be dealt with in the future? I know that the people from Hernando came one time when we didn't have a quorum, and I just was wondering about the other 3 historic buildings that the county owns. Will those, when changes are made, will they come before us in the future?
I've asked for the opportunity for any changes to any of the county-owned historical structures to come before the board.
Right.
I have not heard back on that. I will look into that again. I'll check with Mr. Head because he oversees those departments. Eric,
Who?
Eric Head.
Oh, okay. Because my understanding, that was one of the reasons that this board was created in the past, you know.
I'll get with Eric and find out, both Eric Landon and Eric Head.
Okay.
And speak with both of them about that. With the Hernando Heritage School, there has been no additional work created or
Right.
done there at this time. They did, when they came to speak to the board, it was more of a presentation as to what they were doing and what they would like to do. There has been no other work done at that time. There was a discussion if it was non-invasive, if it was interior and something that's not going to affect the historical nature. The board did grant me the ability to do a review and approval if it was in compliance in nature. And the only times that I have done that was for the electric that they wanted to add and upgrade at the time. And now they're also doing that again with just adding power for 4 ceiling fans, which would still fall within the compliance and the agreements that the board had had at the time. There was a question of an exterior ramp for handicap access.
Right.
And I told them that if they did that, first they must do due procedure. They would have to go to Mr. Head for permission from his department to make that modification. They would have to submit a permit application to the building department to trigger a review process by the Historical Resource Advisory Board. That would be exterior, and that I would not be reviewing that and approving that would have to come before the board for review.
So, does that mean the ramp that's there at the Hernandez School now, it's not in compliance, is it? Is that why they would want to put another ramp in? They said they wanted to put another ramp?
Correct.
Okay, because the original restoration architectural plans, call for the ramp in the back. So,
They wanted to put a ramp in the front. They asked me if I could give them a blessing, and I said no.
good. Good.
Just the short version.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
They-
because the ramp is supposed to be in the back. Is that not true, Candy? Okay,
If there was, a new one that needed to be built.
yeah,
Anything that's gonna be on the outside of that building will come before this board.
yeah. And really, that should be the way for the historic courthouse, too.
Oh, they've done a lot of good work there. They've painted and patched the old plaster walls. They were able to find somebody that knew how to do that work.
Oh, good.
And it looks really, really good and clean. And the only problem that I saw was they did build a wall inside one of the classrooms. But I guess it's out of wood, and that could, come down. It's not
And I did,
something that,
I
is there permanent.
I did bring that before Mr. Head, and it's there.
Yeah.
Have they painted the parapet on the outside where the paint was peeling off? Do you know?
I am
Candy?
uncertain.
Oh, that would be a good job.
That's, it was painted, how years go by, but it was painted when
Well, yeah, when the,
restoration work was going on there. And, I think that paint that they removed had asbestos, I wanna say.
lead,
Lead,
okay.
yeah,
Yes,
yes,
yeah, not asbestos.
yeah. asbestos was on the inside.
W ceiling.
Yeah.
The tile,
Yeah.
yeah, and
And
tile, VAT
The
tile.
old flooring that was in the auditorium.
Adhesives at floor top,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's it, that's 579. That's where the asbestos was in that building on 19.
Oh, yeah,
It's on the
VAT tile.
with the vinyl floor.
Mhm.
They found some behind one of, chalkboards too, the old chalkboard.
Huh, that's a-
That was in there, yeah. So that was done, but that painting on the outside that she's talking about was done and had to be done in a certain way because it had lead. But, you know, they used the newer paint and it is now.
Encapsulates it.
It what?
It's now peeling.
Oh, right.
I have a contractor's background. There's certain ways that you can treat lead paint without removing it by encapsulating it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, anything you can encapsulate, that's a good thing, including asbestos.
Until, never mind.
I just have one last comment in closing, if I could, please. I know I sent reference to this one time before, but I don't know if everybody got it. I'm gonna pass one of these around to Gina so she can get it, and I can send you the link, Gina. This was a little document that I found online. It was about preserving Georgia's historic courthouses. Maybe, Mark, I don't know if you've gotten that. But there was one little item on page 13 of the document that I think explains a lot about preservation, preservation in general and historical significance in general and the context of historic preservations and features specifically. It says, significant features should be retained in their historic location when undertaking maintenance, repairs, or planning alterations. The historic context and relationship between the courthouse and the grounds or square needs to be taken into consideration throughout the process. And that's my closing note for today. Thank you all.
Okay. Yes, end the meeting.
Oh, yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have one question.
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry, Cynthia.
On this last, this CLG training video, I missed what the CLG stands for.
Certified local government,
Yeah.
Thank you.
how that correlates, I couldn't really, it's a name.
I'm sure it had something to do with the review process until then.
Okay.
I believe it's, in my opinion, the name CLG has been bestowed upon us.
Well, we have
but-
to jump through hoops
But
for Citrus County
the terminology though,
to become a certified local government.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay.
That's
For
right.
the historical designation, yeah, that's where that comes from.
the certified local government is in context of historical preservation.
Yeah.
The name CLG or certified local government is kind of deceiving in its name.
It comes from the State Department.
Yes. So do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah.